The distress beacon pierced through subspace like a scream. Captain Velcross of the Galactic Peacekeeping Force felt his 3 hearts sink as he read the coordinates. Outpost Kepler 7, a mining colony on the edge of civilized space, had gone dark. The Zrathian swarm had found it. How long until the human reinforcements arrive? Velcross asked, his chitinous plates shifting with anxiety. 2 cycles, his tactical officer replied. We'll be there in half that time. Velcross had never fought alongside humans before. In his 40 years of service, he'd heard the stories, whispered in cantinas across 100 worlds. How humans didn't retreat, how they fought with a ferocity that defied logic. He'd dismissed most of it as propaganda, the kind of tales every species told about themselves. He was about to learn the truth. When Velcross's cruiser arrived at Kepler 7, the sight stole the breath from his respiratory systems. The station was overrun. Thousands of Zarathians, insectoid nightmares with razor mandibles and acidic blood, swarmed across its surface like a living carpet. The civilian population was barricaded in the central habitat, but their shields were failing. We have maybe 3 hours, his tactical officer announced. After that, the civilians die. Velcross made the only choice he could. They would deploy immediately, even undermanned. His force of 200 would have to hold until the humans arrived. If they arrived, the battle was carnage. Zrathians didn't fight with strategy, they overwhelmed with numbers. For every one Velcross's soldiers killed, 3 more took its place. His troops fought valiantly, but they were trained peacekeepers, not warriors. They fell back, step by bloody step, toward the civilian shelter. Velcross himself fought in the front lines, his plasma rifle burning hot in his gripping appendages. Beside him, young soldiers from a dozen species fought and died. The Zarathians were endless. Then he heard it, a sound that cut through the chaos of battle. A human war cry. They came through the north airlock like demons from ancient mythology. There were only 50 of them, 50 humans in battered combat armor, led by 2 figures who moved with terrifying purpose. The woman, Orla, had crimson hair tied back severely, her face streaked with soot and determination. The man, James, was broader, his armor scarred from countless battles, carrying a weapon Velcross didn't recognize. Fall back to secondary positions. Orla's voice crackled over the comm. We'll hold the junction. Velcross wanted to protest, 50 soldiers couldn't. Hold what his 200 couldn't, but something in her tone made him obey. What happened next defied everything Velcross knew about warfare. The humans didn't just fight, they hunted. James planted himself at the corridor junction with what Velcross later learned was called a chain gun, a primitive, rotating ballistic weapon that roared like a living thing. The sound alone was terrifying. The effect was apocalyptic. Zrathians exploded into chitin and ichor as thousands of rounds tore through their ranks. But it was Orla who taught Velcross what terror truly meant. She moved through the battlefield like death incarnate, a blade in one hand and a pistol in the other. Where his soldiers would hesitate, calculate angles, seek cover, she charged. When a Zarathian leaped at her, she didn't dodge. She caught it mid-air, plunged her blade through its primary nerve cluster, and used its corpse as a shield while shooting 3 more. They don't feel fear, Velcross whispered to himself. His tactical officer, cowering behind a barricade, corrected him. No, Captain. They feel it. They just don't stop. The battle raged for 2 hours. Velcross found himself fighting beside James, who had exhausted his ammunition, and switched to what he called a combat knife, a blade longer than Velcross's forearm. Why do you fight like this? Velcross gasped between shots. Why not fall back? Regroup? James grabbed his Zarathian by its mandibles as it lunged, twisted, and snapped its neck with his bare hands. Because they're behind us, he said simply, pointing toward the civilian shelter. Nowhere to fall back to, it was so simple. So terrifyingly simple. Velcross's species, the mighty Velthari, would have calculated acceptable losses. They would have preserved their forces for strategic advantage. But humans drew a line and said no further, and they meant it. Orla's voice crackled over the comm. East corridor breaching. I need the transmission cut off. James didn't hesitate. He dropped his knife, grabbed a plasma rifle from a fallen soldier, and ran toward the sound. Velcross, against every instinct of self-preservation, followed. They found Orla surrounded by a dozen Zarathians, her armor torn, her left arm hanging useless. She was still fighting, still moving, her blade flashing in her right hand. James let out a sound Velcros had never heard, something between a roar and a scream, primal and terrifying. He fired until the rifle overheated, then waded into the swarm with his bare hands. Velcros joined him. Later, Velcros wouldn't remember the details, only the blood, the violence, the desperate fury. When it was over, when the last Raytheon fell, James cradled Orla against his chest. "Stay with me," James whispered, still breathing. Orla coughed, managing a bloody smile. "Takes more than bugs to kill a human." Reinforcements arrived 30 minutes later. By then it was over. 50 humans and 200 peacekeepers had held against 5,000 Raytheons. The civilian population survived. As medics carried Orla away, she caught Velcros's eye and nodded. James approached, extending a blood-covered hand. "You fought well," James said. Velcros clasped it, his appendage trembling. "I thought humans were fearless," James laughed, a bitter, exhausted sound. "Terrified the whole time, Captain. Every damn second. Then how?" "Because being afraid doesn't mean you stop," James said, looking toward where Orla was being loaded onto a medical transport. "It means you're still alive. Still fighting. And as long as you're fighting, there's hope." Velcros watched the humans board their ship, limping, bleeding, but unbroken. He finally understood why the galaxy feared them, not because they were fearless, but because they were afraid, and fought anyway. That, Velcros realized, was what made them truly terrifying.